The Stillwater Weekend, Part 1, Return to Stillwater. You ever come back to a place and feel like it remembers you? Not in a nostalgic, cozy way. I mean like it's been waiting for you. Watching. Stillwater was like that. My grandfather's lake house, untouched for a decade, yet somehow expectant the moment I pulled into the gravel driveway. I hadn't seen the place since I was 17. I used to come up here every summer, fish off the dock, eat burnt grilled cheese, and fall asleep to my grandfather's voice reading those dusty science fiction paperbacks he never let anyone borrow. After he died, the place was left to me, but I never came back. College, work, a brief marriage that had recently crumbled with all the grace of a collapsing barn. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not my ex, not my coworkers, not even my sister. I just drove north until cell service died and the trees got taller. It felt good to disappear, at least until I turned onto the lake road and saw that nothing had changed, and I mean nothing. The mailbox still had his name carved into it. M. Carter. The same blackened pine tree leaned half dead over the split-rail fence. The house, tall and narrow, sat at the edge of the lake with that same warped grin in its porch steps, like it had one secret it wouldn't ever tell. I killed the engine and just sat there, gripping the wheel. No noise. No birds. No bugs. Not even wind. It was like I'd driven into a photograph. Eventually, I stepped out. Gravel crunched underfoot, loud in the stillness. The air smelled exactly as I remembered: pine needles, algae, and something faintly sour. The front door was swollen from the rain and took some force to open. The interior smelled like dust and time. Cobwebs draped across the beams like lace. I should have felt nostalgia, but what I felt was watched. Everything was where we'd left it. The armchair with his indent still in the cushion. The same yellow mug on the mantel. Even the chessboard, half a game in progress, as if Granddad had just stepped outside for a cigarette and never returned. I didn't unpack. I walked straight through the house and out to the dock. The lake was flat. Impossibly so. I mean perfectly still. Even the trees on the far side reflected with surgical precision. I knelt, dipped my fingers in. The water was colder than I expected, numbing cold. My fingers ached after just a few seconds. When I looked back up, the reflection had changed. The dock in the water was empty. I stood up fast, looked around. Nothing, just the sound of my own breathing. That night, I drank too much and crashed on the couch, lulled by the creaking of the old wood and the soft tap-tap-tap of branches against the siding. Or at least, that's what I told myself it was. At 3:17 a.m., I woke up cold. The fire had long gone out, and from the kitchen came a faint sound. Click, pause, click, click, like someone lightly tapping their fingernails on glass. I sat up, heart hammering. The sound stopped. Then, my grandfather's old radio, the one that hadn't worked in years, crackled softly from the shelf. Not music, not static. A voice, low and breathy. Don't let it see you. The Stillwater Weekend, Part 2, Beneath the Floorboards. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat there on the couch, wrapped in a moth-eaten quilt, staring at the radio like it might say something else. But it never did. It just sat there, dead and silent like it should have been. By sunrise, I'd convinced myself it was a dream. Or a half-dream. The product of too many beers and not enough food. But that didn't explain the smell. Burnt metal. It lingered in the kitchen when I finally went in. Not sulfur, exactly, more like old electronics cooking under strain. The kind of smell you only catch when something's about to catch fire. I unplugged the radio. The day passed slow and heavy. The sky stayed an unbroken gray, like the sun forgot to rise. I kept busy, opened windows, dusted, took a long walk around the property. But no matter how far I went, I felt tethered to the house, like a fishing line running back to my spine. I didn't see a single person. No cars on the road. Not even a squirrel in the trees. I joked aloud to myself that maybe I was dead and didn't know it yet. The laughter didn't stick. That afternoon, I found the door in the floor. It was under the old wool rug in the bedroom. I only noticed it because of a loose floorboard that shifted when I stepped on it. I rolled the rug back, and there it was, a square wooden hatch with a metal ring sunk into the center. No hinges. No visible lock. It shouldn't have been there. I spent hours looking through my memories of this house. Every childhood visit. Every time I'd helped my grandfather move furniture. There'd never been a trapdoor. Not once. The ring was rusted but intact. I braced myself, half expecting the whole thing to be stuck. But it lifted on the first try. Beneath was a narrow shaft of black. No ladder. Just cold, stale air rising like a sigh. I fetched a flashlight and shined it down. The beam caught walls. Wood at first, then stone. The shaft ended maybe 20 feet down in what looked like packed dirt. I lowered myself in slowly. The walls were damp. My hand slipped twice on the way down. There were no handholds, but something, roots maybe, helped slow my descent. When my feet hit solid ground, the flashlight flickered. I was standing in a room maybe 12 feet wide. No obvious exit. The walls were lined with shelves carved straight into the stone. And on the shelves were jars. Dozens of them. All labeled. I wiped the dirt off one and squinted at the faded writing. Ice, NOV. 1958. I opened another. It held a small, dark-shaped suspended in yellow fluid. Something shriveled. Maybe a hand. Teeth. April 1964. Each jar was a body part. Labeled and dated. Some recent. Some older than my grandfather should have ever known about. Then I saw the last shelf. There were no jars. Just a single photograph. A photo of me. Standing on the dock. Wearing the same clothes I had on that day. Only my eyes were missing. The Stillwater Weekend, Part 3, The Man in the Mirror. I didn't know I could climb that fast. 1 second I was staring at the photograph of myself. Eyes gone, expression flat, and the next, I was halfway up the shaft, scraping my palms raw on the rough wood and rock, heart hammering so loud it sounded like footsteps behind me. I kicked the hatch shut with my heel and rolled onto the bedroom floor, breathing like I'd run a marathon. The air in the house felt different now, stagnant, too thick to breathe without effort. I thought I might puke, or pass out, but I didn't. I just lay there for a while, listening. The house made noises, but none of them were familiar. Not the house I remembered, anyway. There were groans and creaks that felt responsive, like it knew where I was, like it adjusted for me. Eventually, I got up, locked the bedroom door, pulled the dresser in front of it for good measure. I should have left. I knew that. But something in me, the same stubborn curiosity that made me open that hatch in the first place, needed answers more than it needed safety. I took a shower to steady myself. The water came out ice cold and brown for the first few seconds. It smelled like pennies. I let it run until it cleared, but the chill never went away. Even wrapped in a towel afterward, I couldn't get warm. When I stepped out of the bathroom, the hallway lights were off. I hadn't turned them off. Every bulb along the second floor was dead. I walked slowly, barefoot, trying not to slip on the warped wood. That's when I noticed the mirrors. There were 5 in the house that I knew of, one above the hallway table, one in the master bath, one in the guest room, a little circular one in the kitchen, and the cracked full-length one on the back of the coat closet. All of them were covered, not just draped, but taped at the corners with yellowing painter's tape. The sheets were thick, like blackout fabric. They looked aged, almost sun-bleached, but there were no windows where they hung. No sun could have touched them. I know for a fact I hadn't covered them. Not in the years I'd owned the place. Not ever. Something about it disturbed me more than the photo, more than the jars. I took the sheet off the hallway mirror first. I don't even know why. Maybe I thought I'd see something. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that this was all in my head. The mirror was dusty, smudged, but normal. I leaned in. My reflection stared back. No blood, no missing eyes. Just tired, pale, unshaven me. My breath fogged the glass. Then I blinked. My reflection didn't. I froze, leaned closer, and then, slowly, so slowly, he tilted his head to the right. I hadn't moved. I backed up fast, heart in my throat. The lights in the hall flickered once, then went out completely. I sprinted back to the bedroom, slammed the door, and shoved the dresser tighter against the frame. I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat on the floor with a blanket around my shoulders and watched the door all night. Outside, the lake stayed silent. Still, as if waiting. At some point around 2:30 a.m., I must have nodded off. I know this because I woke to the sound of footsteps on the floorboards just outside the bedroom door. Not heavy, but deliberate. One step, then another, then silence, and then a voice, my voice, casual, conversational, like I was on the phone with someone I knew. Yeah, he's finally here. Took him long enough. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. It continued, quieter now, like it had moved down the hall. No, he doesn't remember. Not yet. But it's starting. You can see it in his face. The footsteps resumed, lighter now, moving toward the stairs. But the floor didn't creak the way it should have. The rhythm was off, like two sets of feet were walking in sync, one just half a second behind the other. I counted heartbeats. I reached for the fire poker beside the nightstand, clutching it with white-knuckle grip. Then the voice again, right outside the door. So close. Something slid against the wood nails. Knuckles? I pressed myself flat against the opposite wall, trying to be small, trying to be silent. A moment later, the doorknob turned. Gently. Rattled. Then stopped. It didn't try again. I stayed there until the light through the curtains turned blue. When I finally opened the door in the morning, the hallway mirror was uncovered again. There were two reflections in it. Mine, and someone standing right behind me. But when I turned around, no one was there. The Stillwater Weekend, Part 4, Reflections and Repetitions. I didn't leave the house that day. I wanted to. I really did. I packed my bag, grabbed my car keys. But every time I got near the door, something stopped me. The mirror, the lake, the idea that if I stepped outside, I might find another version of myself waiting on the other side. So instead, I stayed inside and started checking the house room by room. Not just looking, documenting. Like I was building a record in case I didn't make it out. That's when I started noticing the changes. Subtle things at first, the kitchen clock ticking backward. A stain on the carpet that hadn't been there the day before. A book on the shelf turned upside down, and I don't even remember owning that book. By midday, the upstairs hallway had grown longer. I swear it. There were 2 extra doors now. I opened one, found a linen closet that seemed normal. But the other. It led to a room I'd never seen before. Smaller than the others. Smelled like old hospital beds and lemon cleaner. The walls were the wrong color, too white. There was a child's drawing pinned to the wall, a house with a black sun overhead, and a stick figure standing on a dock, arms outstretched toward the lake. Written in crayon underneath, I saw him in the water. I backed out and shut the door. When I turned around, the hallway was short again. One of the doors was gone. I didn't try opening the other. Around 5 p.m., I stood at the window above the kitchen sink, watching the lake. The surface was rippling now, but the trees weren't moving. There was no wind. Something was moving under the water. Dark shapes, just beneath the surface, coasting slowly back and forth. I squinted. They were in a pattern, circling, like they were waiting for something, or someone. Then the lights went out. Every bulb in the house popped at once, like they'd all overloaded together. I ducked, ears ringing. When I looked up, the sun was gone. Just like that. It was night. I grabbed the flashlight, which thankfully still worked, and went to check the fuse box in the basement. That's when I saw the door at the end of the hallway, the one that had been boarded shut my whole childhood. It was open. A cold wind poured out, even though there were no windows or vents. There were boot prints on the floor, leading out from the room and down the hall, wet prints, like someone had climbed straight out of the lake and into the house. I followed them with the flashlight. They ended in the living room, right where I left my duffel bag earlier that morning. Except the bag wasn't mine. It looked identical, same brand, same patch on the side, but when I opened it, the clothes inside weren't mine. They were all the same size and color. Gray shirts, black jeans, one pair of muddy boots. At the bottom of the bag was a photo. Me, standing at the edge of the dock. But this time I was smiling. And someone else was standing in the water in front of me, shoulder deep, face hidden by the glare of the sun on the surface. Written on the back of the photo in my grandfather's handwriting. Only one of you gets to leave. The Stillwater Weekend, Part 5. The exit isn't out. I didn't sleep that night. I don't even think I blinked. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets, clutching the fire poker like it was a crucifix. My duffel bag was zipped and ready. My boots were on. I even wrote a note on a torn envelope. If anyone finds me, burn the house. I wasn't being dramatic. By dawn, the birds still hadn't come back. The wind still hadn't moved the trees. But something in me snapped like a frayed cable, and I had to go. I told myself I didn't need answers anymore. Just escape. I got into the car, turned the key, and when the engine actually started, I almost cried. I backed out slowly. The driveway crunched under the tires, loud in the stillness. I kept my eyes forward. Didn't dare look at the mirrors. Then, out of habit, I checked the rear view and froze. There was something in the back seat. It looked like me. Same messy hair, same hoodie, but its skin was damp and gray, like it had been underwater too long. Its eyes met mine in the mirror. Then it smiled. Not with joy, but like it knew something I didn't. I slammed on the brakes and twisted around. Nothing. The seat was empty, but wet. The imprint of someone sitting there hadn't faded yet. I threw the car into drive and sped out. That road, I knew it. A curving dirt ribbon through the woods, barely wide enough for one car. No streetlights, no signs, but I remembered every bump, every bend. I'd ridden in the back seat of my grandfather's truck along this road every summer. But after 20 minutes, I passed the same broken mailbox I saw on the way in. Grayson in faded white paint. It should have been behind me. I told myself maybe I made a wrong turn. Another 10 minutes. Same mailbox. I stopped the car, turned it off, sat there, hands trembling on the wheel. Then something knocked on the window. I jumped, turned. Nothing there. Until I looked forward again and saw myself standing in the middle of the road, maybe 30 feet ahead. Still, silent, face obscured by the fog. I blinked. Gone. I started driving again, faster this time, heart slamming against my ribs. Branches scraped the sides of the car. Leaves swirled unnaturally across the windshield, even though the air was still. Another 20 minutes. The same mailbox. Only this time, someone was standing next to it. Me. Only wrong. He was taller. Or maybe thinner. His clothes were soaked, clinging to him like a second skin. His hands dangled too long, knuckles skimming his thighs. He didn't move, just stared as I sped past. I didn't look back. I found a turnoff, a gravel path that veered into the woods, and took it without thinking. The tires fishtailed as I hit the turn. My breath was coming in short gasps now. Panic had taken the wheel. The path got tighter. Trees leaned in. The forest closed like a fist. Then the car stopped. Dead. No sputter. No flicker. Just silence. I turned the key. Nothing. I opened the door and stepped out. Mist drifted in from between the trees. My boots sank slightly in the mud. And ahead of me, just visible between the branches, I saw a light. I moved toward it. Branches clawed at my arms. I swore I heard whispers. Not words, just syllables. Echoes. Come. I broke into a clearing. And stopped. It was the lake. My lake. Stillwater. Only now the house was gone. All that remained was the dock. And on the dock stood a figure. Back to me. Barefoot. Wet footprints trailing from the woods to the planks. I already knew who it was. I called out, "Hey," but the voice that answered wasn't mine. It was deeper, slurred, like it came from underwater. "You're late." He turned. It was me, or a version of me. Paler, eyes all pupil, black and gleaming like oil in moonlight. Skin veined with something bluish beneath the surface. His smile didn't reach his eyes. He raised one hand and made a motion, "Come closer." I didn't move. He took a step backward and plunged into the water. No splash. No sound. Like he'd been pulled. The lake rippled once, then went still. And behind my eyes, like a memory I never lived, I heard my grandfather's voice. "Only one of you gets to leave. Don't let the wrong one walk out." That's when I turned around and realized I wasn't alone in the clearing. There were footprints in the mud behind me. Fresh, but mine only went one way. The Stillwater Weekend, Part 6, Stillwater. I don't remember walking back to the house. I don't even remember deciding to leave the lake, or how I crossed the forest again. I just remember the feeling. Heavy legs, like I was moving through syrup. Everything around me seemed quieter than before. Not just silent, emptied. The forest no longer whispered. The wind had vanished. The house was there again when I arrived. Lights on. Fireplace lit. It welcomed me back. But something was rearranged. The porch light flickered in a rhythm I could have sworn matched my heartbeat. The couch had moved a few inches. A photo on the wall, a picture of my grandfather fishing, was now a photograph of me. Not a copy. A different picture. One I'd never seen. I was sitting at the table, drinking coffee and staring out the window with this look like I knew everything. I don't drink coffee. Inside, the air was warmer. Too warm. And thick with that metallic scent again, like blood boiled in a sealed jar. My duffel bag was back on the floor near the stairs. Open. Empty. The fire crackled. I didn't remember lighting it. I didn't remember coming back. I didn't remember. Wait. There was movement in the mirror. I turned. The long hallway mirror was uncovered. The reflection stared back at me, but it wasn't me. Not really. It had my face, yes, but the eyes were different. Hollowed. Dim. Like the soul behind them had been smothered in sleep. The reflection tilted its head slowly. I didn't move. It grinned. I stepped backward. It didn't. Then it spoke, mouth moving behind the glass. No sound. just the shape of a sentence. You left. That's when I saw something glinting at the base of the mirror. A puddle. It was growing. Thin, black water pooled from under the frame, spreading across the hardwood. And in it, reflections that weren't mine. Faces I didn't recognize. Dozens of them, all staring up, all pale and flickering like candlelight underwater. Some looked like me. Some didn't. All of them trapped. I stumbled back, heart in my throat. The puddle stopped expanding at the exact edge of my boots. A whisper tickled the back of my neck. We needed one. I ran, straight out the front door, past the dock, into the trees. I didn't care if I looped again, didn't care if the road curved forever. I had to try. I ran until my lungs burned, until my vision blurred, until I was sure I'd collapse and never stand again. And then suddenly, I was on pavement. Real pavement. A gas station up ahead. Cars. People. Noise. I cried, I think. I know I screamed. A lot of them stared. Some backed away. I didn't care. I was out. That's what I told myself. It's been 6 months since Stillwater. I got an apartment in the city. Started freelancing again. I tell people I had a breakdown, that I went upstate and lost a few days. Happens all the time, right? Right? But I know something isn't right. Mirrors don't like me anymore. I catch glimpses too long, too still. The reflection moves a half second out of sync. When I blink, sometimes it doesn't. It waits. Last night, I looked in the mirror while brushing my teeth and found a message written in fog on the glass. You're still here. I wiped it away. It came back. Every night now, I dream of the lake. The surface, smooth and black. The dock behind me. And someone else is looking through my eyes. Because here's what I realized. Stillwater doesn't just reflect you. It chooses. And I don't think I'm the one who made it out. This story has come to an end. Ever had something like this happen to you? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next true horror story.